Fox News is in somewhat of a panic in the wake of the Wisconsin Supreme Court election results that once again highlighted the strength and passion behind abortion rights, democracy, and other crucial issues, and how the Republican stance on those things, the actions they've been taking, is just not popular, especially as will be talked about here, the younger generations get more active in politics. And there's different approaches. I'll show you a couple here. Some just recognizing how these issues directly have impacted election results. And I've seen kind of here and there calls for Republicans to moderate themselves, otherwise they're going to keep losing. But some do what I'm about to show you here with Kellyanne Conway, what she's doing, which is come up with a rather incoherent and copy way to deal with the fact that the modern conservative ideology just isn't popular with the majority of Americans. And that's why we saw the underwhelming midterm results. That's why we saw, and especially because the Republican Party is being driven by this MAGA ideology and the radical stances on things like abortion rights. That's why we've seen when abortion rights are on the ballot or when they're directly tied to a candidate, abortion rights prevail. As I said, the Wisconsin election results and others. And this is how Kellyanne Conway synthesized this reality.
So we can't be beaten on this policy-wise. I think we've already won the policy arguments on the economy, on education, on a number of issues. I think we've got some work to do on the young people who think differently on abortion, perhaps, or guns, or climate change. But even there, the Democrats' messages are usually cynical. The thing I'm really concerned about.
So cynical. Let's protect women's rights.
With this, Laura, is that the left becomes a turnout machine with young people, because influencers have this domino effect, lemming-like effect of people just all then wanting to be part of the same crowd. And if they succeed in that way, we're not doing a great job competing for ballots. We're just competing for votes. Our candidates lost the early voting miserably last time. I mean, someone like Dr. Oz lost the early vote to John Fetterman by over 4-1. So we need to compete for ballots, not just voters and not just minds. And I think they're trying to do that with these influencers. I have faith in the American people. I think they'll catch on to this and say, I want a policy argument.
Well, Kellyanne, I think you raise an excellent point, though, and it seems like the Republicans are always playing catch-up, even though it's obvious what happened last time with the early voting. And you know all these folks who run the RNC and other, I guess, Republican outlets that are supposed to be getting this right this time. What are they doing? Are they, getting their own ballot harvesting operation going where it's legal? Are they, lining up their own channels for early voting? Is that going to happen this time? Do you have confidence in that?
So they're trying to make this absurd distinction between, and we'll get to another clip here from Fox, but between ballots and votes. And they're saying Democrats go and they harvest ballots and they win through the ballot game. And we were just focusing on votes and nuanced policy discussions. I haven't seen policy coming, significant, nuanced, meaningful policy conversations coming from Republicans, at least the driving core of the Republican Party being MAGA, in a very long time, maybe ever when it comes to that particular movement. But there's this perception that the increased votes or the success in different elections, and this is slightly different than it's different than the stolen election conspiracy theory, but it kind of is a child of that, where there's something malicious and mysterious going on with the Democratic Party, and that's why more young voters are supporting them, or that's why they were successful in these states in this election or that election, or that's why abortion rights are impacting elections so significantly. That's why people care about democracy, all that. And it's just not true. It's not ballots versus votes. Ballots are the way that we vote, and more people just vote in favor of some of these Democratic policies in a lot of situations, especially younger voters. But even they try to craft this narrative that it's just the Gen Z that Republicans are unpopular with, which they are very unpopular with Gen Z, but the radical stances on abortion, gun control, democracy, with the attempts to overturn the election results, and others are unpopular with the majority of just America generally. And still, Gen Z is a very small portion of the voting population. So it's mostly not Gen Z. And still, you're very unpopular, and find ways to eke out victories, of course, and still have a lot of power. But generally, the ideology is just not something people can get behind, and it's not going to consistently be supported, especially as I said, the younger generations get more involved in politics. And so for Kellyanne Conway, it's let's ballot harvest. You can only be successful in ballot harvesting, which is just getting a third party to take someone's ballot to the polling place. So if it's an elderly person, they can have a family member or something take that ballot to the polling place for them. But it's only successful if you actually have people to fill out the ballot who are real voters who actually want to support the Republican Party. And that's your issue for sure. Next moment here, responding to these results.
Check that out. Brett, you followed these results in Wisconsin. Interesting. Here's what we found for the Gen Z vote into 2020 midterms. They won 77-21 for Democrats. And now there's this, it's not a five-alarm fire, but it's concern among Republicans as to how they get young people to vote for them, especially with the issue of abortion more or less on the ballots in so many different state races. This is what Kellyanne Conway told us just last hour here.
And there's more Kellyanne Conway, but I have an idea. It's gonna sound a little goofy, a little strange, and I'm not normally giving strategic advice to Republicans, but I'm gonna do it here. You can take it or leave it. My wild idea for not alienating certain voting populations on the issue of abortion is to have a less radical view on abortion. That would be my advice to the Republican Party. But definitely interesting to see different ways in which he's being more authentic and recognizing just the Republicans have a stance that isn't popular among so many populations, while Kellyanne Conway is saying it's a ballot versus votes game. And we will continue to watch it all move forward. Make sure you're subscribed to me on YouTube at Luke Beasley.